My family wants to reconnect after 6 years. I was married to my high school sweetheart, Sarah. We had 4 daughters, Jane, Tori, Brianna, and Claire. I met Sarah when we were 14, and we started dating right away. My parents loved Sarah, and she became like the daughter they never had. I remember my father sitting me down and giving me advice. Sarah and I were dating for 7 years when we found out she was pregnant with Jane. We were both over the moon, got married soon after, and went on to have our beautiful family. The only problem was my brother, Jack. Jack always had a crush on Sarah. It kind of harmed my relationship with him, but I tried to let it go because he was my brother. Sarah reassured me that she didn't have feelings for him. My limit was when Jack found out about our engagement. He confessed his love for her and tried to convince her to leave me. She didn't and told me. At this point, I was mad at Jack, ready to kick his ass, but Sarah asked me not to. I was ready to cut my brother out of my life. It took Sarah and my parents to convince me not to. My marriage with Sarah was amazing. We had our ups and downs, like any other couple, but I wouldn't change anything about it. We were a passionate couple who loved each other and their children more than anything. My brother's crush on Sarah caused some trouble, but things improved. Little did I know that he not only still had a crush on Sarah but was also planning to break us up one day. More than 6 years ago, I arrived home after a week away and found my daughters, my wife, and my brother in the living room. Sarah and my daughters were crying, and when they saw me, they started to scream at me. Sarah accused me of cheating. I was surprised. I had never cheated on her in the 25 years we had been together. I asked for proof, and she showed me pictures and texts that supposedly proved my infidelity. My brother jumped in, claiming that a coworker and friend had confessed to him and sent him the proof. I started crying, begging Sarah to believe me. I told her that this was Jack's doing. She slapped me in the face and kicked me out. Before I left, Jane and Tori called me all kinds of names, saying I was a disgrace to the family. For a long time, I tried to make Sarah and the girls see reason and understand that I would never cheat. Sadly, it was all in vain. My parents disowned me, and my dad said if I were a man, I would make the divorce easy. Before the end of the year, Sarah and I were already divorced, and my daughters didn't want to see me. In the beginning of 2017, Sarah and Jack got married. My daughters sent me a message saying that they hated me and didn't want anything to do with me, claiming they had a new father figure in their lives. It was hard, but with a lot of therapy, I learned to move on. I always held on to hope that my family would find the truth, but I learned to live with the possibility they never would. 5 years went by without any contact with anyone from my family until a few days ago. I received a call from an unknown number. When I picked up, I heard sobs from the other side. It was my mom. She said they were sorry and wanted to meet me. I asked why, and my mom said my family had found the truth about everything. But this was a matter to be discussed personally. I told my mom that when or if I felt ready to meet them, I would call her. But I didn't want to be contacted by anyone until or unless I said something back. She understood and said she missed me. We said our goodbyes, but to be honest, I still don't know what I should do. A few people have asked me for an update, so here it is. I arrived at my parents' place in the morning. I rang the doorbell, and my mom opened it. She started crying and hugged me. It was a bit awkward for me. My dad gave me a handshake, and I got in. My mom started trying to make small talk, asking how I was. She then commented that I looked a bit better and that I had lost weight. I replied, "When you're depressed, you forget to eat." I then asked how they found out. My mom said that Jack was drunk and had an argument with Sarah, saying something like, "I didn't plan all this so I would take your Sarah," then forced him to confess. Sarah and my daughters wanted to contact me, but my mom said it would be better if just she contacted me. I started laughing. My dad was a little mad and asked me what's so funny. I said, "My brother probably spent years trying to separate me and Sarah, and he blew it all up. All he had to do was be quiet, and he could continue with his beautiful life." I then asked my parents if they could imagine how our lives would be if they and Sarah didn't try to convince my brother after he tried to convince Sarah to run with him. My dad started crying. It was the first time in my 45 years of life that I had seen my old man crying. He started to apologize, saying he was an awful father, but that he, my mom, Sarah, and my daughters were all sorry. I was able not to cry and told them that I would love to reconcile, but it would take time. My mom asked me if she could give the green light to Sarah to contact me. I said yes. They then asked more about my life, as they wanted to know how I was doing overall. It was better than I expected. The next day, Sarah sent me a message and asked me if she could call me. I replied a few hours later that she could. Not even 5 minutes later, she called me. She asked me how I was. I told her that given the circumstances, I could be worse. I asked how she and our daughters were. She said that they are not so good after my brother confessed. Sarah and my daughters felt remorseful and kicked my brother out. I asked Sarah a few questions. Why did she marry Jack so quickly, and how come she didn't believe me? She started crying. She said that during and after our divorce, my brother had been her rock. Sarah said that they eventually started dating, and they got married because, and I was shocked to hear this, she got pregnant. I was a bit taken back when I heard it. I asked if she could repeat it, and she did. I told her that I needed time. I warned that the chances of us getting back together were not looking good, and I didn't want her to have false hopes. She cried a bit more but said she understood. She ended the conversation with, "I love you. I just said goodbye. Is reconciliation possible?"